My guest today is Nitish Sakhuja, one of Canada's top young comics featured on Just for Laughs, the Winnipeg Comedy Festival, and more. This March, he'll be opening for Russell Peters on tour in India, and he recently dropped a new special called Hi, I'm Nitty. We talk about his journey from growing up in Toronto to moving to Los Angeles and the craft and business of making it in stand-up comedy. Now, let's get into the zone with Nitish Sakhuja. Nitish Sakhuja, thank you for being here. It's good to see you. You're a Toronto-born comedian and podcaster now living in LA. You recently dropped a new special called Hi, I'm Nitty.
Yes, sir.
Which I watched and it's really funny, by the way.
Thanks, man.
First, I want to ask you what motivated you to get on stage for the very first time?
What's up? How's it going? This guy went right into it.
Yeah, I like to dive in.
Yeah. I don't know. I started when I was 19 years old. Something I talked about in high school. But I only knew when I was in high school, I only knew about yuck yucks. I was like, I don't know why everybody it's one of those household things that's why it was so big in Canada, right? But me and my friend in high school, we were like 15 years old. We always made each other laugh. We're like, yo, we should try stand up. And then we went on Yuck Yuck's website and it said that you had to be 19 plus to get in. So that was the end of our dream. We never even looked further into it.
If you're enjoying this podcast, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. It's the free, easy way to support the channel, and it lets the algorithm know that I'm not just talking to my mom. Thanks for being a part of this journey. Now, let's get back into the zone.
And then throughout my life, people told me I should try stand-up. And then when I dropped out of university, I was working at this call center at this bank. And then I was the youngest kid there, and I would just make fun of people. And they were like, you should try stand-up. And then it kind of got in my head, and I started going to watch Tuesday nights at Yucks. And I went to like 3 in a row. And then the booker there saw me 3 weeks in a row and was like, you trying to do this? And I was like, yeah, but I don't really understand how. And he's like, just come next week and you're on. And I was like, okay. And then
Tuesday nights was the amateur night. Is that right?
Amateur, yeah. This was like 15 years ago, though.
Yeah. I used to go to those as well.
And call back at the end of the day and see if your name was on the list to get, like, they would just say the names,
Yeah. Yeah, you had to call. I remember you had to call like between 10:15 and 10:32, or like there were all these weird rules where you had to like call to get on.
Now everything's over the internet and it's all different, but
right on. So yeah, so you've been doing stand up like 15 years, you'd say?
Years, yeah.
Wow. And do you think that's like early in the life of a comedian still? Like I know a lot of comics talk about like being in the game for like 30 plus years. And
yeah, it's a mishmash of both, because I feel it out here, especially because I do feel like I've been doing this a long time, and I kind of, I kind of know what I'm doing a bit, but I'm also still learning. And when I see other comics, I feel like I'm still a baby in this game,
Yeah. And you recently moved out to LA, you said a little over a year ago?
Yeah.
And coming from Toronto, do you find it's like a big culture shock for you out there? Is it really different in terms of like not only just the comedy scene, but just like the way of life out there? Does it feel really different from Toronto?
Yeah, it's very different than Toronto, in both aspects. Comedy too, because I was getting up, 10, 12 times a week in Toronto. I was one of the guys out there, so I could pretty much do whatever, I was doing a lot of shows. I could walk in, get on spots. And then to come out here and you basically start over, nobody knows who you are. Nobody gives a fuck who you are. So that was hard. And I'm still going through that a bit, from doing that. Now I'm doing like 2 to 5 shows a week. It's not the same, but it's Los Angeles and it's America, and there's more opportunity. So even with the fewer amount of shows, there's more happening for my career doing those shows than just running in a hamster wheel in Toronto.
Oh, interesting. So it's like you get more, even though you're doing less shows, it's almost like you get more visibility, more people are watching the shows that could help your career, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what LA is. It's like, it's not a place I'm able to do that because I had the benefit of grinding for 14 years in Toronto, doing unlimited sets, like just being out all the time, because they don't have that here. I feel like everything is spread out in LA. Where in Toronto, if you leave a club, you can just start walking and get to another club. Here you have to drive everywhere. So
Right.
you're not going to be able to do 5 sets a night. And on top of that, there's not 5 sets a night available to you. So it's not a good place to come grind. I'd say go grind somewhere else and then come showcase here.
Gotcha. So you sort of built the foundation in Toronto, learned how to be a comedian, learned how to do jokes. And then once you felt like you're ready, that's when you're like, all right, I'm going to make this move now to LA and try and get to more attention.
Absolutely. But it wasn't it didn't happen in that way where I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do this now. It kind of just I was thinking about getting my visa. I didn't. It was too expensive, so I gave up on it. And then I got signed to a management company, and then Comedy Records, and then they got me the visa. So it kind of just fell into my lap, and I didn't. I just jumped on it and switched my whole life up, But for the
Yeah,
game,
that's
dog,
that's
you
a
know.
big it's a big life switch up for sure.
Yeah,
When did you realize like comedy was the thing you wanted to do? Because it's so easy to like, have a bad set and be like, oh, I'm out of here. Like, and then just feel like garbage and just like be wanting to get out of there. So like, how did you overcome those bad sets? Because everyone has them. And what made you realize that like, oh, stand up is the thing that I'm going to do for the rest of my life?
I think I made up my mind before I did it. Um, but that first time I stepped on stage was like, I'm still chasing that dragon. There's like, as bad as it gets, like that high was so sick, you know? And I don't know, in my head, the way I play that story, it went so well, and it did go well, but the way it went well, I don't feel like I've ever done that good again, you know? Or it's like taking a hit of crack and it's never been like the first hit, you know? But I'm chasing it and I believe it can be. And I'm 15 years later, I'm still here doing it.
That's funny, man, because it's like so many comics have the horror story of their first set that was like horrible. But you're the other way. You're like, oh, my
I,
first set was so good.
I was so like when I started before I even did comedy, I was like, yo, I'm gonna be a comedian. I know I'm funny. It's gonna be in my head, I was like, I'm gonna blow up in 1 year. I'm gonna be the most famous comic. That's what was going on in my delusion. And my first set, I invited like 25 people out. 20 people out. They all came, they were all sitting in the front rows, and it was a packed Tuesday night. And it just went so well, man. And I told 100 jokes. I was at a completely different pace. I was like, I found my voice now, and it was just, when your first time nervous, I said 100 different fucking things, but it went well. And then, yeah, man, I'm just fucking trying to get that feeling back.
Yeah, I do miss it. I did stand up for a few years and I haven't done it in a long time now, but I routinely think about going back to it because I do miss that like live feedback, like that getting that
It's the
laugh.
only thing in the world that gives you that.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Only art form where they'll tell you right away if it's shit or if it's good.
Yeah, I mean, I do some little like sketches and things like that I throw on YouTube and stuff, and like
Mhm.
those are fun to do. It's like a nice little creative outlet, but it's not the same thing. It's like you don't
Because
get that.
you get to edit it and look at it and perfect it before you put it out. And then
Yeah.
when you put it out there, it's like you're looking through the window. You're like, do they see it? Did they like it?
That's right. That's a good.
It's like, yo, this is it. And they're like, haha, we like it, or buddy, that sucked. They get that room of like, we worked on this for a little bit and we're not doing it directly in front of you. We're gonna watch you enjoy it.
Were there any comedians who like influenced you or someone you look up to now even who you're like, oh, like that's a career that I would like to follow in that trajectory?
Yeah, like for sure. Dave Chappelle has always been since forever. Um, but more recently, I mean, the reason I do comedy and more recently because I've built a relationship with him moving out here. But Russell Peters, man, that guy is he's the goat, man, for especially for an Indian kid from Toronto. Like he did it, man. And he was the first special I ever watched. And I was like, no way, I was like 12 years old and I was like, there's an Indian guy. And all these years later, I never met him my whole time I was in Toronto. We never ran into each other. And then when I moved out here, we got connected and he's been like a mentor, man. He's taken me on the road. He's taken me to India with him. I lived with the guy for 3 months.
Wow.
It's like it's it's crazy. And to see the way he did it and how he treats other people and the way he like, I would love to emulate something like that, you know?
Yeah, that's really cool. Congratulations on doing that tour. When does the tour in India start?
March.
March. Cool. And for 3 months, you said it goes?
No, 2.5 weeks. I
Oh,
said
two and a
I
half
lived
weeks.
with him for 3 months.
Oh, you lived with him for 3 months. Oh, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Because I moved out here and I didn't really have a place to live. I didn't have a bank account. I didn't have American information, so I couldn't get a spot. So I was just renting random rooms. And it got shitty for a while. And then, yo, man, one day he just hit me up and he fucking changed my life, you know?
how did you meet him? Did he see you perform and think, oh, this kid's got it? Or like what, how did
So
that?
like I met him through like so Russell's friends who didn't blow up the way he did are still the OGs in Toronto. So those are my OGs. So when I moved out here, they connected us. Ron Jostle took me to meet him one night. Um, John Paul, Kenny Robinson put in some phone calls for me and connected us. And then he saw me perform. He took me on the road, and he just he believes, you know. And another, I'm Indian. I'm from Toronto. There's like so many things that just fit into it, you know.
How much do you think relationships matter in comedy? Because in so many other industries, especially like the creative ones, I feel like relationships are so important. It's like it's always like, oh, it's who you know, not what you know, you know?
Hmm.
So do you think
Absolutely,
like having those
the whole
relationships has
world.
helped you?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
the whole world is run on nepotism, right? Um,
Yeah.
and so many opportunities that I've gotten in stand up and in life have come through my friends. That's what stand up comedy is. Like everyone thinks it's like a solo individual game because you're on stage for 5, 10, 15 for an hour by yourself. But there's 23 other, 23 and a half other hours in the day that you're with other people. And most of that time you're with other comedians. And that's where you build relationships. That's where you get the next gig from. That's where you find the next lead from. That's who you go on the road with, you know? You're on stage alone. It's not a solo game. So you're just nice to people and just, treat other people like humans. You never know when an opportunity is going to come back around, and especially in comedy. And you can, you know, so many things have happened because of little relationships. Because I meet a comic who knows another comic who I'm boys with, and so that lets me get on into this network of shows or whatever, you know.
Yeah, I worked as a writer on some TV shows, and one of the things that they always talk about is that like uh, you could be a okay writer and like a good hang, and they'll want to hire you more than like being an amazing writer but kind of a dick. And I
Yeah,
feel like it's kind of similar like in comedy too, because like if you're on the road with Russell Peters or anyone for 2.5 weeks, you're like living in a van or whatever with these guys. It's like you don't want to be stuck for 15 hours a day with someone who's kind of a dick. Like you want people who you get along with and who you like.
100%. That's comedy. If you are a good hang, it'll take you way further than talent will. If you're a dick, it's human shit, you know. It's like at a certain point,
Yeah.
outside of no matter what you're doing, whether it's you're an accountant or you're a professional basketball player or whatever, you work at Cineplex, whatever mundane job you do, what's greater than that is like you just got to be a human being. And when you treat people like that, it transcends all that bullshit, you know.
What about the online stuff now? Like, I feel like so much of comedies become like TikTok clips. Like, are you pushing an online presence as a comedian, or
Have
are
to,
you
man.
you have to?
That's
Yeah,
all. It's You can't get booked at a club if you can't sell tickets anymore.
right.
That's Everything is about selling tickets. It used to be the club put in the work and they brought people in and showcased the talent, you know, but now it's like they're relying on the talent to bring the people through the doors. So they'll take someone who's been doing comedy for a year but has a million followers over a comic who's prepped, well prepped, who's been doing it for 25 years.
That's interesting because that's such. It feels like such a switch that like, I guess it didn't happen overnight. It happened over years, but it
Slowly
feels
over
like
time.
so different, like from how
Yeah.
it used to be.
Yeah.
Do
You
you?
can't not be a comedian without Instagram now. There was a point where all you needed was a phone number and an email.
Yeah. Do you worry about like putting your bits online though, and then it sort of does it sort of kill them? It's like you did a bit, it goes online. Best case scenario, it does really well online and gets you a bunch of attention and feedback, but then like can you
Yeah.
can you not
I,
do that bit anymore because it's like it's already been
no,
done?
well, there's so many. I guess it's different for everybody. For a long time, I was scared to do it, but also I don't know, man. I've been doing comedy a long time. I have a lot of. I got 3 albums out. I have 2 years of footage from the Corner Comedy Club that I've been playing at, and it's like I can afford to do it because I'm at that point now. So I'm like, that's why I've just been pushing. I'm going through old footage and I'm just clipping everything, things I forgot I even said, and it's making me write it again. But also, it's how viral a video has to be for everyone to see it. Even if 20,000 people see your video, that's 20,000 people throughout the internet,
Right.
you know? So you go to your local club, how many of those 20,000 people are going to be in that audience? 0.0 something percent chance that they're going to be there. And if they are, it's 1 or 2 people. And if they like the joke, they wouldn't mind hearing it when in a scenario where there's 100 people who've never heard it. We think too much of ourselves. No one's listening to our shit. And even if they heard it, the internet's so fast, I'm not even remembering.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, there's just so much. It's like no one can track every
Yeah.
joke, every piece of content that comes past them,
You
right?
used to be if you go viral, that video would be the thing for like a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Now it's you got 10 minutes
Right.
before the next pops up.
In your special Hi, I'm Nitty, which you released like six or so months ago.
Yeah, I recorded that for Comedy Records in exchange for my visa to come out here.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So you record it and they pay for like the visa process. Is that how it worked?
Yeah, so they got it under their label and I did that was the exchange.
Wow.
So
It's,
it's their album.
that's an interesting deal. So like
Mhm.
but it sets you up essentially in the States to give you a chance to like really
It's really
showcase.
expensive to get your American visa to come out here. That's why I gave up on the process. It came out to like almost 16 grand Canadian.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, I'm just gonna do comedy in Canada. That was my final thing. And then it just it just happened. It worked out pretty nicely.
Cool. Well, we'll put a link in the description of this video so people can go watch it. Like I said, I watched it. It was really funny.
I because it's called Hi I'm Nitty because like it's a pot room. I was smoking weed,
Yeah.
but the a day and a half before the recording, I slipped a disc in my back
Ooh.
doing deadlifts. So I couldn't even walk. The only reason I did that show was because my friend loaded me up on Percocets. I was on I was so high during that recording. Like it's if you watch that and come watch me live, it's completely different. Because if like it still turned out all right, but like I looked so high and so slow paced up there. But I was on 12 perks that day. And I remember I had to have my notes on the ground because I just couldn't place where I was. I was so prepped for that album, you don't understand. And then it's just interesting how life works, man.
12 perks and you smoked a joint on stage, right?
I was smoking all day because
Yeah.
I was in so much pain. If you look, if you watch that special, you'll see my shirt hanging. I'm wearing a back brace underneath my t-shirt,
Oh, wow.
and they cut it out. I asked them to cut it out, but I walked on stage with a cane too.
Wow. So how are you doing now? Are you better?
I'm much better. I mean, it's still affecting me, my mobility a little bit, but I'm back in the gym. I'm exercising.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that, man.
Go check out Hi I'm Nitty if you're watching this. Go fucking. It's a fun time. It was still a good time. They asked me if I wanted to delay it, but I was like, no. We had so much went into doing it that I was like, I'm just gonna fucking do it.
Yeah, no, I mean I couldn't tell, honestly. I was laughing through it. So yeah, it was great. I one thing I did notice I was like, smoking on stage is something that like a few comedians do. Like Dave Chappelle does it, I think. You do it, obviously. Is there something that like the weed does for you in terms of your performance? Does it like relax you? Do you think it makes you funnier? And do you ever like write while high?
I'm just a pothead. I just smoke
Okay.
all day. And
Okay.
if you tell me I can smoke somewhere, I'm gonna smoke. That's
What does it do for you though? Like, do you think it unlocks some creativity or anything, or is
probably
it just
slow me
like,
down. I'd probably be better off if I stopped smoking weed, to be completely honest. I'd be a
yeah,
little faster.
yeah,
But it does make me think weird, because it's not just like, I love psychedelics and stuff. I like to enter weird realms in my mind, and just it helps me when I do it, when I think about myself in those state of minds and I think about a joke, it just takes the punchline in a weird direction. Like comedy is all about surprising the audience, right? The worst thing that could happen as a comedian is the audience knows what you're gonna say before you say it. When I watch comedy, I'm trying to guess punchlines. You know what I mean? I'm trying to guess what the comic is gonna say. And the greatest gift is when you're leading up to a joke and they have no idea. It's just, so that's what I like to that's where I like to play when I do comedy.
yeah, yeah. And you think that do you think that like the weed or psychedelics like help you just take it in a direction that you would never have taken it before? Is that the
Yeah,
idea?
sometimes it's like
Yeah.
that was stupid high thought, but if you articulate it right, you can just make it really silly and take it to a place that's,
Yeah. So a lot of comedians like will are in two kind of camps. So like some write on stage. In other words, like they'll have an idea for a
yeah.
joke and then like just work it out while on stage in real time. And then other comedians are like writers who will like sit at a desk and like write jokes out like word for word and then like rehearse them and like say them. Which camp do you fall in? And do you think that it's like a style choice or do you think there's like one way that's better than the other?
I write on stage. Um, I have a thought and I go work it out. And the benefit of having doing that is having a club that allows you to just go on stage and fuck around. And I had that in Toronto. That's why I feel like helped my development for a long time, where I could just go on and work out whatever on a Friday night in a packed audience. Like there was no pressure like that. Coming out here, I've had to adjust a little bit and write a little bit more, but I prefer unlimited stage time and writing on stage. But that's also I know for a fact also a lazy thing. We don't want to sit and write. I hated that. I hate that. I hate being in school. It reminds me of someone telling me I have to do this right now, and I'm like, no, I chose comedy to never have to do that again. You know,
Yeah. I feel
Figure it
like
out.
writing on stage is like the more like okay, this is just my biased perspective, but like when I did stand up, like I would write everything because I'm like I'm too scared of bombing. Like at
Mhm.
least I want to know what I'm gonna do, and if it fails, it fails. But like going up and having no clue like where this might go feels like so risky to me, and like takes a lot of courage to do something like that. So I respect it a lot.
You know what it is? It's when I'm on stage and I'm telling jokes. All of us, our adrenaline is rushing. Our brain is working in a way that it's not working when we're sitting and writing. That's why I have a hard time to sit and write because it's not putting the pressure on me to be funny right now or get booed off. That adrenaline, it doesn't help you just save a life. It makes your brain work fast. It's all of that shit. So that's why I think it's a little bit of a cheat code, because you're like, it's life or death. Where when you're sitting and writing, you're like, okay, I should be writing right now. I should be thinking, why can't I think of ideas? Why can't, you start going into this fucking
Yeah, for
process.
sure. I mean, I've definitely been there too. So I get that.
It's
I think
actually
it's true. It's true that there's like you your brain is in a different gear when you're on stage like that because it's like you feel that pressure and it's like if you can work well under pressure, then that works out for you.
yeah, absolutely. That's why I think it's easier because um, it's easier that way because the adrenaline is it's yeah, exactly.
You mentioned that you're close with Russell Peters and he was someone you looked up to. Do you think that like your background as a Canadian and as a Indian Canadian like impacts your comedy? And if so, how and how has that shaped your act and your career?
Well, I don't talk too much about like Russell made a lot of those jokes already. You know, he's
Mhm.
the guy. He opened the doors for us to be ourselves now. You know, and I remember when I was coming up, my first 5 minutes was all about my dad. Right? It was the Indian accent. It was things my dad taught me. It was all that, but it was crushing. And I remember my first showcase at Yuck Yucks, I crushed, and I waited for Mark Breslin to take me upstairs to talk to me, and he didn't. And I waited, and then when he was leaving the building at the end of the night, I was like, "Hey, Mark, like, I know you didn't talk to me, but is there anything?" And he was like, "Very funny, but Russell Peters did it already." And then he walked away from me, and that stung so bad. And then I started questioning myself. I'm like, "Am I funny because I'm funny, or am I funny because I do impressions of my dad?" And I'm putting on the accent, and I make jokes about living in Brampton. So I got insecure. So then I was like, if there was a chair in front of me, right? And they told me to make fun of this chair, could I do it without putting on an accent? Right. So I challenged myself to stop doing Indian accents. So for a good 10, 12 years, I would not do a joke about being Indian or an Indian accent or joke about my dad or any of that shit. Unless it was like the punchline wasn't, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
and I just,
if the accent wasn't the punchline, because a lot of
yeah,
times Russell Peters, who's hilarious, of course, but like a lot of times he will lean on like the the persona as the punchline, right?
but I also think that's a misconception because everyone who says that is going off the specials we've seen.
Yeah,
Like
some of
um,
those
wo-
OG specials.
working with this guy now, it's like
Yeah,
it's cool to see, like to watch somebody age and watch their personality change. He's a little angrier, you know what I mean? Everything he's talking some real shit too, but it's just not. Everyone still thinks it's somebody gonna get hurt.
yeah, for sure. And that was like a definitely an era of Russell Peters, but like you can tell that he's a real comedian. I'm not saying he's just leaning on accents. Like
Yeah,
he
no,
does
no,
real jokes. He's like a real
yeah,
like
yeah,
he's
yeah,
really funny, but
yeah,
I think his like growth was so explosive at that time, and it was because of around these like
yeah,
5 or 6 bits.
hundred
That's
percent.
like what a lot of people think of him for.
And whether people want to admit it or not, almost every ethnic comedian does comedy that's around. Anybody who came after him did it because we saw him do it.
Yeah,
You
for
know,
sure.
people don't want to admit it, but it is what it is. You know,
Is there like stories from your life that you tell? I feel like there are, but stories from your life that you turn into bits, and like how true are they? Are they like true stories that you tweak or exaggerate for comedy? Or like I know you talk about your dad sometimes. Like, are those all true things that you've like
it's
amped up to
situational.
11?
It's situational.
Yeah.
Some things are word for word exactly, and some things are you add a little extra sauce to it. You know, but um, it all stems from real life. Just observations and just being around. Like I'm not Hassan Minajing it and saying someone attacked my wife or anything, but um, you add a little extra flair to the jokes with some sauce to it. But it all stems from reality in real life. My dad's a pretty funny guy.
Yeah. We all have like that funny dad or funny uncle or cousin or something that it's like, oh man, this person could have totally been a comedian. You know what I mean? It's like they could have totally been a comedian, but like they
And
just
you
still
just
like
find
went
out
another way.
that they're just telling street jokes that they heard, right?
Yeah.
But like, and then you hear it for the first time, and then you're like, oh, he's always on.
Tell me about the We Don't Smoke the Same podcast. When did that start, and why did you want to get involved in that?
So that's the whole reason I'm in LA. Initially, I was gonna move to New York. I had all my shit planned. I was going to New York every couple months, and just meeting people, putting in work, trying to get in clubs, and I had done that. So when I got my visa, I was looking for an apartment. I was getting ready to move to New York, and there's this podcast in LA that's called the We Don't Smoke the Same podcast. And I met these guys in Toronto like in 2016 or 2017 through Jason Rouse. He brought them to Toronto, and I met them at a show at the at Puff Mama's Underground, where we could smoke weed in the back, and they were trying comedy at the time. And we just hit it off and became friends. And then every time I would visit LA, they would invite me to come do their podcast. We became friends. So when I was moving to New York and I had almost everything fully set, I just called my boy Ezone, the guy who's the host of the podcast, and I was like, "Yo, I'm moving to New York from Canada. So now that I'm in America, I can just fly over and do the pod whenever. Just let me know." And without even skipping a beat, he was like, "Man, fuck New York. Come be my co-host on my podcast." Like he just found out I was coming. I got my like, he offered it out of nowhere. And I'm a firm believer in go where you're wanted, right? So I pivoted at the last minute and went to LA and joined the podcast. And I don't regret it. It's been great ever since, man.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I agree. Go where you're wanted. I think that's good
Absolutely.
advice.
Yeah.
Do you have any other advice for maybe young comedians who are like a year in, or maybe even a comedian who's never gone on stage yet? Like if you could go back in time and tell your young self some advice, what would you say to him?
All that bullshit around comedy, trying to get stuff and trying to be on this festival or trying to get on this show or whatever. It's all bullshit. 99.999% of the shows you're going to do in your career mean nothing, and they will do nothing for your career. The only thing they will do for your career is if you treat it as such, it's a rep in the gym. You're just getting better. Everything is just a workout. And if you ignore all that bullshit and don't worry about getting that show or getting anything, just worry about being good, then a good comic will just like a good comic who's a good person will just you'll be fine, you know?
Yeah, I
And it's
talked to
longevity. This is not comedy is a marathon. It is not a sprint. You don't really get good till you're 20, 25 years in, and you're like, oh, now I'm on one.
I talked to Manolis. Do you know Manolis Santanis?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I talked to Manolis on the pod, and he was a guy I met many years ago too when I was doing stand up, and he said something similar. He was like, you want to be able to not look at other people's career and be jealous. You want to be like actually happy for them, and if you can get to that place and like, first of all, you don't feel like shit all the time because you're not comparing yourself to others, but also you're like their actual friend because if you can really
Absolutely.
be happy for them, right? Like then it means that like you actually care about them as a person too.
Well, comparison is the thief of joy, right? As soon as
100%.
you start doing that, you're gonna not enjoy what you have. There's someone who's while you look at somebody else's shit, there's somebody looking at your shit, hoping and wishing they had that shit. You know, it's never ending cycle, but it's also it's human nature. So you can't get mad at anybody for it, but you're wasting time. Just befriend them, and if they blow up, how sick is it that your friend blew up? They'll probably take you on tour. You know.
Yeah, for sure. I think being able to like separate that and like not feel that jealousy and just like use it as fuel for your own stuff, I think that's a healthier way to deal with it and actually just a more productive way and better for your own career and life, right?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
What about the business of comedy? Like, or even the business of show business in general. It's like how much of your day is spent like figuring out the business side of stuff as opposed to like writing jokes and coming up with ideas. Like, do you have a manager? Do you have an agent? Are they putting you up for stuff? Like, how does all that side, the business side work?
Well, I just got a manager for when I moved out here, Comedy Records, and they do a bunch for me all the time. They're always trying to, put your name in different boxes, but a lot of it is on the ground local stuff. If I want stage time, I got to hit people up, got to meet new people. That was one of the hardest things, meeting new people as a grown ass man trying to make friends. Um, but that's what it is. It's a mishmash of going out there because I'm also in a unique situation where I'm on a stand-up visa, so I'm not allowed to work anything else but stand-up.
Oh, I've
So
never heard of that.
it's an entertain. I can't do any other job outside of stand-up comedy,
Oh, interesting.
or I'm going against my visa, and I'm not trying to fuck anything up. So I got a lot of free time, man. Comedy's a nighttime thing. So
Yeah.
during the day, I'm trying to use it by making content, editing videos, reaching out to people, and then in the evening, a lot of hanging out, man. A lot of hanging out, meeting new people. But it moves on. And one of the benefits, I've been doing comedy for so long that I've met a lot of people coming through Toronto. So when I'm in LA, the fucking capital of entertainment, at least if I hang out at the comedy store and just wait on the patio for 3 hours, somebody continuously passes by that you've met in your life, and you're like, oh shit, I haven't seen you. You know, it's just, it's cool. It's cool.
Yeah, it goes back to that thing about networking, right? It's like you just, even if you're just chilling there, you're saying hi, it like reminds people that you're a comic too, that you're alive, that you're doing
They're like,
shows.
oh shit, you're out here now? Nice. Okay. Now that I know that, it's, you know,
Is there ever a moment where you almost quit stand up where you're like, ah, this is maybe not it for me? And then what brought you back from that brink?
I don't think I ever almost quit, but there were times where I looked at my life, a lot of times where you're just staying up late, sitting on your bed because you live in a house with four other comics. And you're like, my friends that I went to school with are now buying houses, getting married, having kids, and I'm paying $250 a month in rent for this little room, you know? Um, and you're like, what the fuck did I do with my life? This is what I chose. And then when you usually start questioning that, you're like, I've come too far. I
Yeah.
haven't done anything else for so long that I don't know how to talk to normal people anymore because comics just talk to each other in the worst ways. That when I talk to a normal person, I'm like, I'm gonna say something inappropriate very soon. I'll, and I can't go back to an office. So it's more of a fear-based, like there is no plan B. So keep plugging away because even if I've seen it get bad for other people, when you look at some of the older comics and like I'm like, as bad as it gets or as good as it gets, I'm gonna be somewhere in between there.
Yeah, I think I may have said this on the podcast already, but Jim Carrey has a really good quote about this where he says that like he was watching his dad, uh, who he said was really funny and like could have been an entertainer. And his dad, I think, and was ended up being an accountant, and then he lost his job. And so his quote is something to the effect of like, you can fail at what you don't want, so you might as well do the thing you want, you
Very
know?
true.
And I was
Yeah,
like, man, that quote hit hard. I was like, yeah, you can look around, you can see other people living life in a different way, but you're in your own lane. You have to like drive in your own lane and like commit to that lane, and like it is what it is. Not everyone is going to have the same path.
it's true.
Is there a project you're working on next? Like, are you working on another special? I know you're going on tour soon with Russell. Is there like anything you're excited about that's coming up?
So I made a deal with myself in 2022 when I did my last album that I would do one every year or two. And I was planning to have another one ready for now, but moving to, because I was going to go to New York, but coming out here changed the amount of stage time I'm getting. So that's pushed back that goal. Um, but I want to work on another album. I am writing, but not stand up. I'm writing other stuff, that I'm working on that I want to make a movie or a TV show one day. So there's things that I'm cooking, and as I meet cool and dope people that are putting me in rooms with people, it all looks more realistic. You know what I'm saying? It's not. It doesn't feel like a pipe dream anymore. It kind of feels like the tunnel is long, but I think I see a light. It's so I'm just grinding away. I'm prepping for India because that's scaring the shit out of me. Um, I don't know how it'll go, but I'm
Are you
excited, man.
doing are you doing big, like, is it a big theaters in India? Is it like
Yeah,
stadiums?
they're
Like,
they're I think the smallest show was like 3,000 people.
wow.
Um, and opening for Russell's. I've been doing comedy a long time. I've done hours. I've done it all, but I've never done what I'm doing with this guy. It's me and him, no host. I'm doing a cold 30 before he
Wow.
does an hour. And but by the time I get on stage, there's still people being seated and shit
Right.
for my first 10 minutes. It's interesting. It's a new animal I'm trying to conquer.
Well, congrats, man. That's really cool.
Thank you.
When you're going to do a show like in another country, like India or whatever, are you tailoring your bits to like Like, are you changing your material for a different audience, like for an Indian audience?
So the only time I've ever left the country to do comedy was to America or Australia, um, which is a little easier because it's English. But in India, I don't know. I've never done comedy out there. But from what Russell tells me, because he's been a bunch, is like he says they're one of the smartest audiences he's ever had, and you don't have to change anything. They understand all your references because they work in all the call centers, so they already know what's up. He said they'll be hip to it, so I don't have to change anything. Just maybe my local references if I have any.
Yeah. Huh, that's really cool. I would have thought like even in the even I feel like there's even a difference between like Toronto and New York or LA. Like you might have to like change little things up. So I would guess like, oh, if you're going to India, you have to change a lot of shit. But it seems like maybe that's not the case.
Well, I think it the difference, like when you're a younger comic, your bits are very local to what you know.
Right.
So I remember when I first started writing bits, a lot of it was Toronto stuff, and I was like, oh, will it work in Alberta when I go on the road, you know? But then as you start writing bits about being human and human nature, that I think it translates countries and borders.
Yeah, it becomes more universal if when it's like less like specific, I guess.
Yeah, when it's like when you're not talking about your local McDonald's having bad service, and you're talking know, your relationship with you and your brother or whatever.
Right. You mentioned you're doing other content as well. You're thinking about maybe some TV shows, movies, and stuff like that. I also noticed you do these like social media things where it's like you talk a little about um, like I watched one where you talked about Stoicism. I watched one where you talked about it's like philosophy and stuff. Like
Yeah, this
what
thing I
what
call Ghetto Buddha.
sorry?
It's called Ghetto Buddha. It's just
Yeah.
like,
What was the inspiration to start that?
um, well, back in the day, I ate mushrooms when I was 17 years old, like too much mushrooms by accident. I
Okay.
ate like 7 grams, and it just sent me down this path of like I fell in love with philosophy and like just trying to figure out those questions you can't answer you can't answer, but you can have theories about. And it led me down a pretty cool path of just like stoicism and shit. And it's one of my favorite things to like read about and try to think about. So I was like, I wanted to make content. Well, I don't want to make content. I hate content. I think it's fucking stupid. But I didn't want to make like I don't want to do sketches. I don't want to do something I didn't have my heart in and make it shit. So it took me a while to figure out, but I was like, man, how do I incorporate this into comedy? And then I'm like, it doesn't have to be comedy, you know?
Yeah.
So that's one of the things where I kind of let go of, where I'm like, I'm not going for a joke when I do this. I'm just like, here's a minute of like a little mental health tip that's not super preachy, but it's like, hey, let go of shit.
Yeah, I liked them, man. I think the like I also got into Stoicism and started reading like Meditations by Marcus Aurelius
Yeah,
and
one of the
Caridian
best.
and a couple of the other ones. So like I think it can be really helpful to people. I think now it's like taking on this weird broicism thing where it's like kind of misunderstood a little
Mhm.
bit in like pop culture now. So it's like it's cool that you're like trying to put it out there in a way that's true to what real stoicism is supposed to be.
Yeah, and it's like all that is just noise too, right? When you
Yeah.
start thinking about the way random people have opinions on things, and because you heard it from the internet or the TV, and that's the way you feel about it. It's like try to cut all that out and just respond to things how I would actually feel about them without having to hide how you feel.
You mentioned that you hurt your back doing, I think, deadlifts, right? You were saying?
Yeah.
And I also saw another one of your posts that I think you lost like 100 pounds, right?
I used to be almost like 300 pounds. I was like 285.
Wow. So what was that journey like for you? Like, what did you do to lose the weight, and like what motivated you to lose it?
So I always heard from people that losing weight after 30 gets hard. and it was my 29th birthday, and I was like, uh, this year I want to get in shape before I hit 30, you know, because I was like, it's just something I wanted to do. And so I started working out and everything, you know, just like a normal diet, hired a trainer, personal trainer who used to work at the corner, one of the security guys. And then COVID happened and the world shut down like 2 months into it, you know? And when I lost comedy, I didn't know what to do with myself. So I just started working out all the time. And I put all that energy into fitness. So all day was about exercising, running, going for a bike ride, meeting up with my friends, and doing fitness shit. And it lasted longer than I thought because none of us thought COVID was gonna go that long. So
Yeah.
by the time that shit ended, it was routine for me because I did it for 3 years now.
So in
And
a
then I
weird
just
way, it was helpful for you to have that like sort of reset time to like be able to focus on something else.
yeah, as much as we all hated COVID, like I hated what it did, to the
Of
economy
course.
and
Yeah.
where, but personally, what it did for my life was awesome.
Well, that's a good silver lining take on COVID.
Yeah, you know, yeah, I feel great. I feel healthy. It's good.
That's good, man. Well, thanks so much for being here. I like to sort of wrap up the podcast by asking one last question.
Yeah, oh
Uh,
yeah, thanks for having me, dude.
and it's yeah, no problem. And it's like basically, I want to know about a time. I ask all my guests this about a time when you stepped outside of your comfort zone, either personally or professionally, and what that did for your life.
Um, I mean, there's so many. I feel like my whole life has been stepping out of the comfort zone. But I think the latest one was when I got that notice that I was going to get my visa to move to America and moving to LA. It changed my whole life, man, because I was in a 10-year relationship with my girl. We were engaged and moved out here. We're no longer together. Um, I started afresh. I live here now. I don't really have, besides like my family and stuff, but I don't have a place in Toronto. There's when I go back there, I stay on my friends' couches and shit, and um, it sucked, because it's a whole life reset. Um, but then all this beautiful shit started happening out here. Got in touch with Russell. The podcast is taking off. The social media is doing well. It's like one door closes and others open, and it's like just go with the flow, man. Ride the wave. Don't get emotional about anything. Don't get too high. Don't get too low. Just try to take it one day at a time, and just be.
Yeah, man. Even just from this podcast talking to you, I can think of a dozen things that would be out that you've done that are outside the comfort zone of a lot of people. I mean, even just getting on stage is outside the comfort zone of a lot of people. Even moving to another country, like taking the risk, like thinking you're going to go to New York and then switching gears and going to LA. Like, there's so many things that you've done, I feel like, that are uncomfortable. And I think part of the reason I wanted to start this podcast was because it was something I was interested in. Like I like talking to people and learning about all their stuff, but like it also made me a little uncomfortable. And I was like, man, I haven't felt on discomfort in a while. Like I've been kind of comfortable doing the things that I've been doing. And I think pushing yourself outside that is the path to growth.
Yeah,
And
dude.
the
Being
path,
uncomfortable is where dope shit happens.
yeah,
When you're
100%.
comfortable, nothing happens because you're comfortable. It's boring. You know,
100%.
you got to get uncomfortable, man. That's where life is.
Totally agreed. Well, thank you so much for being here, man. It's been great to talk with you. Good to catch up with you. We'll put links to your specials and to the podcast in the description so people can check you out. Is there anywhere else, anything else you'd like to plug or promote?
No, just follow me on Instagram at Nitty Sak, and fuck yeah, just try to be nice to each other.
I love that, man. Thanks so much.
Thank you, bro. It was good chatting to you, man. Thanks for having me.